Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard here with Bill Stierle, and I'm really excited today to talk about emotional sobriety in conversation, also in our media and in our government and politics. And Bill, emotional sobriety, that seems to be a very loaded label. Maybe it's a label or maybe it's a reality. There's a lot in there. Can you help unpack that for us?
So we have an emotional thing here, and we have the word sobriety, which is kind of a term that is approaching regarding addiction. You're addicted to something, which is a label. And emotional sobriety, are you sober to your own emotions? Are you sober to the emotions of others? Oh boy, it has to do with reactivity, because many times, as somebody that has worked in the drug and alcohol industry for many years, one of the challenges is that not only was there the substance that the person was struggling with, but they were also struggling with their language and their thought structures that led them to use the substance, because that's called the precursor. It's like, here's my thought, or here's what's happening in my body. It doesn't feel very good. And if I take this substance, I have a form of relief that shows up in my body. I have a form of ease that shows up in my body, and it's easier for me to be in the world and be inside this body, because part of me is not as constricted or restricted, and therefore, it's not as reactive. Emotional sobriety is, I have an emotion and I can be present with it without reacting to it or overreacting to it. People do all kinds of things to satiate, to push down, to deal with their emotions. Everything from, hey, I got to go to my next skiing trip, to I am going to go out to eat because I'm a foodie. Yes, I'm overweight, but that doesn't make a difference, because I like the feeling I get when. I like the feeling I get when is the thing that starts us down from the path of sobriety to not sober, to not being sober. So thoughts and words and actions can do the same thing. So news media currently is getting a little bit hijacked, to say the least.
A little bit.
There is not an emotional sober response to it. There's an attempt to do a truth response to it, but really what's happening is a spitting match is showing up between liars, not liars, liars, not liars. That's not honest. That's not fact. It's like that is another form of exhaustion, where you're on the gerbil wheel, like we talked about last time, the gerbil wheel of blame and shame and judgment and criticism and blah, 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 right?
Right.
So an emotional response, a sober response in media, in government, to have an honest conversation, to not just have an honest conversation, but when somebody brings a derogatory phrase in our direction, that we've got to have some communication and a conversation that sticks. It's got to stick. So the question then is that how do you make something stick? Well, it's got to be meaningful, and that it can't be, you said this and then I said this. you say this, I say this, you say this, I say this, and then they're screaming at each other. And we have seen all the different screaming talking heads or people talking over another person in order to do a thing called dominate a narrative.
Mm.
Most of the time, it's not about truth telling. It's trying to get a message to stick. Even well-meaning people are repeating a message that they don't know that they're helping the other side to stick into somebody's consciousness. Let me say it again. They are saying a message. They repeated a tweet that wasn't true, but that message now becomes reinforced. And the way the brain works is it's a little bit more like how many impressions the message has. It's not how true the thing is, how many impressions it has. Because after a certain number of impressions, your brain goes, well, it seems like it's a good idea. I know it's 12 o'clock at night and I've seen this ad for the last 5 days because I haven't been able to sleep, but maybe I will buy this special motorized toothbrush that, does XYZ because it could clean my teeth. It does scrape away plaque the way it does. It's like, oh my gosh, no. What has happened is the stimulus and the response, the impression has taken place. And what happened is the truth is hijacked is that, it's an overpriced toothbrush that will tend to break or get worn out the same as the other toothbrush will. And now you spent 5 times the amount on this toothbrush. And you know what? You are in worse shape than you were because now the money is gone. Now you got a toothbrush and now you could have bought 5 more of those, for the same price at, another location, so on and so forth. So does that make sense how media's repetition of messaging, they've got to really watch out for, because the other, all sides, it doesn't mean if it's good or bad, all sides have got to populate the brain of the voter in order to get that message to stick and to go about. So
I find it very interesting that the media seems to be taking the bait of the Twitter storm, the Twitter feed of the president, because that seems to be the beginning of the majority of reporting, especially in the 24-hour news media. And it doesn't matter whether it's extreme right, if you think it's, Fox News and that has their agenda, or you think CNN has a different agenda, but they're all, any that are trying to actually be just reporters in the middle of the road by making everything a reaction to a presidential tweet. They're really playing right into the hands of the repetition of these messages.
yeah, and
And
that's very disheartening. They're playing in the hands of them. Yeah, taking the bait.
well, and talking about the tweet, amplifying it, even if they're trying to say this isn't true.
Yeah, so I've been asked that question. Well, what do you do about it? What do you do about it? Well, once there's a tweet that's launched, the next message is, in order to get this to move into its right sober or sobriety position, is that whatever the tweet is there needs to be a compassionate, honest, not honest, a compassionate moment where we have heard this message, and then a gentle shift away from the addicted response that the person says, yeah. Instead of saying, yeah, they've got to say, yeah, that's part of it, but really what the real truth is this. You've got to gently shift them from the trigger response into a soft landing away from what is being propagated or pushed forward or re-messaged, in the person's mind. And that becomes a little challenging because people don't know how to do that. It's welcome to my world. They don't know what to say next. What do you say when the person says this? Yeah.
Well, and to me, that is right there. The path to emotional sobriety is
Right.
having the discipline not to react instinctively to the label or to the insult, the whatever it is that emotionally someone else is trying to push your buttons in the conversation. And when you were talking about like two people in the media that
Yeah.
they have on a panel arguing their talking points, each layer you were putting on top is like usually another talking point or another zinger, right?
That's
Trying
right.
to score points in the debate. And that's not, you know if it
It's
lands and
escalate.
affects you, you're not going to have emotional sobriety. You're going to have emotional knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And
And
entrenchment,
right,
the addiction, entrenchment into the addiction.
and it seems that whoever can truly embody emotional sobriety is going to help change the conversation and get out of this cycle of you know of talking points and messaging that is really going to land. Because I think you're right, Bill. No matter whether you think these constant tweets are true or not, and I think a lot of, I think even the fact checkers have borne out 10,000 lies in the first couple of years of the presidency, mostly over Twitter.
Yeah,
It's repetitious messaging
it
that
is.
is tapping that elephant brain and making people
March in
believe
row.
that it's true.
Those elephants are following, those thoughts are following and following and following. I think we might have mentioned this in the past, but it keeps coming up in my mind, is when is the most money bet at a racetrack, at a horse race? When is most of the money being taken in? And most of the money is being taken in the last 15 minutes, 17 minutes before the race. Who is spending that money? Who is spending that money? Now, this is the one that you get to fall off the seat with, right?
Okay.
It is a gambler who has already bet on a horse and has come back a second time to put a second bet on the same horse he's already bet on. 73% of bets are second bets on the same horse by the same person.
I'd love to know why that is, Bill. I don't know the psychology. I'm not a
I
gambler.
am
I don't know
so
the psychology of gambling.
you will in a second.
All right.
The will in a second, because this is where the fear that the American public needs to be in is that people are going to want a second bet on Trump. They're going to want a second bet on Trump.
They're going to double down?
They're going to double down.
Oh.
Those voters are doubling down
Oh.
because they already bet. They believe in it because they believe in it. The hardcore ones. Now, the ones that have been affected by integrity, been affected by mutual respect, been affected by honesty, been affected by their belief, they've been hurt personally and emotionally by this experience. Those folks are going to feel bitter and upset. They'll say to themselves, I have had a junky experience here, but maybe it was just, and once this Mueller stuff is behind him, then he will be the president that I've always wanted him to be. They'll double down on the horse. Even though they've been hurt and are going to continue to get hurt, they're going to double down because of the emotion that they felt initially, as well as their lack of understanding about what government does and the amount of safety and infrastructure that government provides, as well as being sold the belief is government should do something for you personally for your taxes. Something for me personally? Well, I got a road to drive on. That's something that I got personally. All of us chipped in for this road. All of us chipped in for this bridge. All of us are chipping in for the police department. All of us are chipping in for the fire department. You know, all of us are chipping in to kind of care for nature. All of us are chipping in for, see, all of a sudden I am doing really good PR work for the government right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing really good PR. We're all chipping in for some common things that we'd like to have in common, rather than the belief that, well, if you use it, then you should pay for it. If you don't use it, then you shouldn't pay for it. Well, I don't know. I don't think I want to live in Florida with all the toll roads because I'm paying for a part of it because I'm using it. It's like, really, do we really need to slow down the commerce any more in Florida than as slow as it goes right now? It's really a little unsettling, right? It's like, does it have to go any slower than that? And so wouldn't it be, for a few cents, getting the millions of dollars that they're missing out on by slowing people down at a toll road? Because that's what it costs. It costs millions of dollars to slow people down. It
In order
does.
to pay the toll, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It costs them time. It costs them productivity. It costs them efficiency. Who wants to do that? Cost analysis is terrible for toll roads. Terrible at what it costs the economy. But a user mindset believes that if I'm not using it, I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Sure.
That's fair. It's like, I'm not sure if that's going to help us much, because the big picture is not being seen. It's not being promoted, propagated. It's not getting any air, because the powers that be, the people that are hitting the button to go place the second bet, is hitting on a very early childhood 10 to 12-year-old belief about fairness. It's like, oh my God, it's not fair that I have to. It's like, you're missing the big picture here. So,
well, let's take something that people might relate a little more directly to, that directly affects them, because there's been a lot in the news lately about how the tariffs have caused
great
the
question.
price of soybeans to go way down, because Chinese have slapped a big tariff on soybeans, and there is less of an export demand from China for American farmed soybeans. So these farmers are seeing their income decrease significantly. They have less money to pay to repair their equipment that they need. They have less money to live on. And when I've seen some of them interviewed, some of them do blame President Trump and the current administration, that he's fighting this trade war and he's hurting them, and they don't like it, and they seem to feel betrayed by him. And then I see other people who are other soybean farmers that are like, yeah, he's doing what he needs to do. I still support him. I would still vote for him again. And that is a little confusing to me, although maybe it's just that the person that would continue to vote for him was always on his team and is going to vote for him no matter what. And the other farmer who said he's betrayed me really is personally affected. And it's less of, well, we all chip in for the road type of thing, because this one's hitting me in my wallet.
Right, exactly. And the thing that the farmer is missing, and the thing that the farmer cannot see, is the way the habit mind works. See, The short-term pain is different than long-term habit-forming decision-making.
Okay.
So the Chinese have had a habit that they could get soybeans at a good price from America. They have a habit of doing it. They have a habit of how it ships, how it shows up at the port. And then there's a consistency to that. It shows up there. Now, at the price or at the thing that's going to show up, for the Chinese, they're going to go like, okay, well, where else can I get it? Well, it was a little more expensive in India, or it was a little more expensive in this other country. And well, I guess we'll start buying it from them. Now their attention is over there. They start building a habit and a consistency over there. And when they do that habit and consistency over there, they get used to it and go like, well, why would I go back to the old way? It was a lot harder there. And yeah, it's a few cents deeper, but my habit and my stability is with this new person that's not as volatile as that old person I just was, that old client. You've noticed this to be true. How many times have you went back to a company that you have switched off of and say, oh, yeah, no, the price is better. I'll go back there. No, that's not the way it works. All the phone companies know that. Once you
Right.
switch over to there, even if they try to price bust the other company, the person's go like, why am I going to go back and rechange my line and rechange my billing? And it's like, yeah, I know it's a few cents more and I'm kind of pretty happy about it, but those suckers did this one thing to me and I don't want to really use them anymore. And I've got to go over here now and stuff. And that is exasperating. That is very, very frustrating to, I'd rather stay with what I have been betting on, what I have invested in. So we've got to get sober to the response and have an emotional sober response in government and in media so that our conversation has a proactive, compassionate response to junky sentences and junky things that people say. So for example, Mayor Pete, booed edge. So Trump, which is a one syllable word, accentuated the booed edge, kind of like he was poking fun at it. It's like, what good is this name?
It's exactly what he did.
Booed edge. It didn't meet the need for respect, and it didn't meet the need for integrity, and it didn't meet the need for,
Well, it seemed sophomoric. This is what the president has done repeatedly with anybody that opposes him.
Oh my God, you just took the bait. Oh my God.
I called him
You called the
sophomoric.
sophomoric.
I know. Well,
No, don't make it wrong. Don't make it
aim to
wrong.
please,
This is the learning moment. Oh my God, this is like the best moment ever. This is real. This is what happens in real time because newscasters do exactly what you just did. Is I expand upon it. You effectively put a label in a box in it, and what happens now for the person that is listening to it is going like, oh my gosh, you just put my guy in a box and you called him sophomoric. He's not sophomoric. He is a great business leader. Look at all the money he's made. Look what his father has done. Look what how his family is in the world, blah, 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 blah. So the, the main thing in this moment, Tom, is I actually started down a gentle path, compassion towards what he did, and your emotion got hijacked. That would be an example of a non-emotional sober moment for you.
Sure. Yeah. Emotionally, off the wagon.
You were emotionally off the wagon. It's really funny how the brain works. And it's funny how the language is preloaded for that response. And we can build this habit pattern into our consciousness. And all of a sudden, one person says one person says another. And that person says it, that person says it. And I'll actually have a slide to show that because that's the thing to get a hold of. And let me see if I can let me bring that up by pressing this button. And then I want to press this button. Come on now. Right there, share. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to share this slide with you, because the compassionate response, are you able to see that translating language slide?
Yes.
Awesome. So for all of you that are listening to this, briefly describing this picture as I have two people with megaphones screaming at each other. Okay, they're speaking, animated characters, and then I've got two circles that are behind them, and each of the circles, one circle says feeling need, and it's with a blue circle around it, and the other one has a feeling a need with a red circle around it. So this conversation, Tom, is something you can relate to, because whether it's an argument with your kids or your spouse or a business partner that's bugged the crap out of you or whoever it is, you're going to notice that the triggering response that takes place in this thing is so instant that it's a little hard to believe. So for example, if the first person, the male figure in this, says a judgmental sentence to the woman that's on the other side, it could be his daughter. And the daughter has done this thing, or the spouse has done this thing before, and the guy says a simple sentence. You know what? That's not the way to do that. Notice the judgment quality of the sentence. That's not the way to do that. Her response, and we don't even know what the thing is that she done, but her response might be something like, what are you talking about? That's called a defensive response. Think of this as tweeting and the response to tweeting, and it becomes an immediate response to the reaction and overreaction to it. Then what happens is that really some cool stuff starts showing up. The guy says again, that's not the way to do that. The woman on her side says, what are you talking about? He listens to that and then responds back, what's wrong with you? See, the conversation is not going in the right direction. And she says, nothing is wrong with me. So
no, we're being very productive now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have criticism, and then we got defensiveness. We got judgment, and then defensiveness. We have criticism. Now we have contempt. Nothing's wrong with me. He says, I told you 1,000,000 times.
Or in politics, it's, I've always said this, right?
I've always said this.
As if, inconsistency is a character flaw.
Right.
Or changing your mind. Yeah.
Change your mind. I told you 1,000,000 times, the guy says in a blaming tone. In a judgmental tone, she says, that's not true. It might have been 900 times, but it surely wasn't 1,000,000 times.
Right.
In other words, she'll find the one time she brought in the newspaper or whatever the thing the guy's complaining about.
And think that she is correct because the statement he made was a bit hyperbolic. It was overblown, right? Or exaggerated, maybe is a better word, right?
That's correct. No, but I think you had all those words right. Hyperbolic, exaggerated, all those things are correct right there, Tom, because that's when emotional sobriety goes out the door, is that when you start picking on micro truths. And the last podcast we had around truth really got us caught into, what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on the illusion of the micro truth, or are we looking at the bigger truth, the thing that's causing the problem?
Right.
Which is really, really a big part of it. So the next part of it is that he gets to say, well, it's your own fault, in a shaming way. Her, for her part, goes into withdrawal, says, whatever. And there is no compassion, no mutual respect, no understanding, no reaching for an effective way to speak and think about things. All it is judgment, defensiveness, criticism, contempt, blaming, judgment, shaming, withdraw. And you can call something shaming, but that's not helpful. Even if your label is correct, just like you did before, that's
Right.
sophomoric response or whatever.
Yeah, I was not emotionally sober at the time,
You
which
were
I'm
not-
actually disappointed in myself, even if you love it, because I gave you a perfect example here.
You did. And this is the way newscasters need to take this on too, is say as soon as they take the bait, they got to pull it back. Oh, wait a minute, I took the bait there. Really, what I'd like to say is, and just reframe right there. Just go right after it.
Yeah.
So you're saying, oh yeah, that response was not helpful. Here's a better response. The need for respect looks like this. This is what integrity really looks like. This is what the rule of law kind of states, and this is what didn't happen. This is what did happen. Yes, there's a little bit of margin that we can give people for making mistakes, but this is not one of them.
Wow, Bill, this slide is powerful. And I just want to remind all the listeners who are only listening to this and not seeing it, you want to go to the blog post and either watch the video and see this animated slide show up, or there's a slide that's a still image of it. Because Bill, it appears to me that you've just given us a roadmap that is an example of most conversations in our political discourse today. And the two sides are speaking in these ways to get a soundbite on the evening news, or to score points with their base, or to satisfy their leadership in Congress. And it is not a path to actually understanding each other and accomplishing anything.
That's correct.
And
That's
it's
correct.
also a roadmap, I think, for what a lot of the 24-hour news media does, because this kind of argument, let's not even call it debate, let's call it what it is probably, an argument, makes for good ratings on TV.
It does. So let's get to a solution part of it, because the solution part of it is really where the thing lies. Is that the two circles that I described at the beginning, the feeling and need behind each one of these 4 sentences that the guy said, and the feeling and need that is behind the 4 sentences that the woman said, have a compassionate response to them. You've actually got to go around the language that the person has said to actually have a compassionate response to what the person says. And likewise, to draw out a compassionate response from the other person is a way that you could actually reframe your own thoughts, so you don't have to get into the gerbil wheel, dogfight, blame, shame, guilt narrative. Now, let's go back to our example. President Trump says, Pete Buttigieg, and then is asked about that during an interview. The president made fun of your name. Watch my response. Yeah, I guess he might have been feeling uncomfortable because my name does have some difficulty until you're used to saying it. The way it's pronounced is Buttigieg. And I'd be happy to assist both him and others to speak that way. it's like and it is a unique name, and it does have 3 syllables, where Trump only has 1 syllable. It's a little easier to say Trump than it is to say Buttigieg. But I think with a little bit of practice, most Americans can get it. No one will pick on his name again.
Right.
No one's going there again. Trump can't do it again at the next rally, because now all of a sudden He just provided a compassionate, respectful response to a person that fits the label of, you call it sophomore, that fits the label of that, fits
Right.
it, but he just gave an adult response to it. He just gave a response that has respect and integrity to it. He
And,
extended respect and
and
honesty.
he would diffuse what Trump was trying to accomplish. And if Trump continued to try to disparage him, I guess might be a proper way
That's
to
a
say,
good, that's correct. It disparages the right word. Yeah.
by intentionally
That's right.
mispronouncing or exaggerating the phonetics of his name would end up making himself look worse.
That's correct. That's correct. It actually, there's a moment of where you just get tired of the name caller. You just get tired of the person hitting the dopamine and hitting the response out of the person. You get just tired of the frequency. You're tired of it. I think that's one of the things that one candidate actually can start running on right now. Geez, you know what? Aren't you really tired of it? Wouldn't you like to return to stable, effective government? Vote for me. I'm really interested in stable, effective government. And yeah, you might not like some of my ideas, and you might want to poke some holes in it. I'll be happy to discuss with you some of those ideals, but I'm really kind of interested in government being a quiet, supportive things for our lives, and not to be something that impacts our lives so in such a difficult with a lot of adversarial to get us to fight with each other. Not
Wow.
interested in that kind of government. Gosh, if any politician was listening to that right now, they'd go like,
Well,
I
and
want to, yes. So
and Bill, what to me
let's try that.
landed from what you just said, and I think you just illuminated what anyone who is proposing that they are the candidate to run against Trump in 2020. And honestly, whether it wouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican challenger, although we've yet to see a Republican challenger emerge and there may not be one.
Mm-hmm.
But the common theme that's being talked about in among Democratic candidates, how many are there now, 23 or something,
Yeah.
is
24.
24 now. I mean, who can keep track? But is that there, and especially at the top, the leader, even Biden, is talking about it's more important than anything else to beat Trump. And they're starting to focus on who can beat Trump, or beating Trump is more important than policy issues and differences. And that to me is going to be a losing strategy.
Yeah, I am not interested in beating Trump.
That is again what you just said. Any serious politician or campaign out there, whether it's Trump, Sanders, Buttigieg, Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
Cory Booker, any of them, if they actually approach it the way you just said it right there,
Yeah.
that is the path to having their message land. And it effectively does become a beat Trump message without saying,
That's
I'm
correct.
about beating Trump.
No, I'm about securing Trump's vote for my side. I'm about a person that is going to do their best to restore stability and consistency in government, to make my best choices and to discuss through something that's going to work and restore workable government. I am not, and for anybody that is going into the adversarial space, that is going to go into this, I'm really interested in really taking on the conversation in a different way. I am not going to argue with it, but I most certainly be compassionate to that point of view. The point of view is that, hey, you would like all of us to give Trump a pass for the things that he said and did regarding and all the people he did, regarding Russia, regarding his comments, regarding the different disrespectful things, or the things that didn't meet the need for respect towards others, and different language strategies that he used to trigger people to vote for him. And you don't want that. You would like something that is more thoughtful and more effective, well, I think, it might be, worth it to you to vote for a candidate like that. Notice I didn't say vote for me.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to vote for me. I want somebody to vote for my values. Just see how that just landed? It's
Yeah.
like, I don't want them to vote for me. Don't vote for me. You're not going to like the things I say if you vote for me. You won't. But I'm hoping you're going to like the values and what I stand for, because that's the same as yours. It is. I want mutual respect. I need integrity. I need to have stability through following these rules of law and making rules of law that allow us to create a fair playing field for people that have not gotten the fair playing field over the last 30 years. That's what's happened. The fair playing field it's not fair right now. So I think fairness would look like, and see, all of a sudden, look at how there's almost a moment of stillness between you and I. As soon as I stopped.
No, you're calm. When you go through this, translating language slide that you just showed us, and you have this unproductive discourse of, judgment and defensive, criticism to contempt, blaming to
Yes.
judgment, shaming to withdrawal. Your tensions get raised to a boiling point. But
Yes.
when you speak the way you just did,
Yeah.
I become calm.
Yeah, it really is a diffusing, really diffusing and also powerful way to have power with somebody, not power over someone. He's gotten a lot of traction on TV to have power over people. And because he's had that power over people, you're fired.
It's all he knows.
Well, he's been, his whole MO, his one tagline is "you're fired," and look what he has done to every single one of the quote unquote the best people.
Oh,
He
yeah.
has fired people. He's just translated his TV show to government. He brought think of all the government people as if they were all on The Apprentice, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine that. Imagine, okay, you have everybody, all those things, Bannon and
Yeah.
and all he's been doing is plucking them off one at a time. And in a 4-year episode of the Apprentice,
or
in the government as a president.
I think maybe
I'm surprised
modern,
nobody has. I'm surprised nobody has even said that.
No one's talking about that.
No one has said that.
You're right. Well, I'm glad you're
show.
talking about it. And using The Apprentices obviously is the logical relation, because he was the star of The Apprentice. But I'm thinking, because we've just recently the last episode of Game of Thrones entered, and I think it's a little more Game of Thrones. Which and to me, what we're seeing in the president's style of governing is much more akin to a monarchy than it is to a republic, like the way our government was formed. You're the king, it's my way or the highway. That's, what, in business, that's often the way it is, especially if you have a private company and you are the CEO, the largest stockholder. It is going to happen your way.
That's right.
And if you don't like it, too bad. And if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to be fired. Now, to an extent, people serve at the pleasure of the president, and he has the right to fire anybody he wants. Maybe not necessarily the most effective way to govern in our form of government, though.
Right. Yeah, it's appreciative. I feel appreciative of the Game of Thrones reference. And for those of you who haven't seen the show, it's like all the people that are closest to the people in power, all the different people that are closest to, are making all kinds of different they're submitting to, they have a lesser courage than, they have the inability to act towards the person in charge, and an inability. And just to keep with the Game of Thrones metaphor, when that leader gets angry and gets on the dragon and starts flame throwing all the peasants,
Oh my goodness.
it sounds like 200,000 people losing their health care. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that metaphor is. Is that, oh, well, these people aren't, doing what I want. I think it's okay to, fry them all, because these are the ones that, I'm going to take it out to show how powerful I am. I'm going to have a power over it. Okay. So now that we pressed on that metaphor, I'm sure you got a bunch of questions that show up. But does it make some sense then, with this slide called Translating Language, that if somebody says something tragic, that we can have a different response to the tragic language that they're saying? Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense to me.
Great. Now I'm going to have you play one of the roles. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to pretend that I'm the woman in this picture, and you're going to be the guy on the other side, right?
Okay.
And you're going to read to me the sentences from the bottom to the top, and I am going to deliver a compassionate sentences on the fly to what you are saying to me. And we'll slow it down a little bit so people can actually see what's happening. The first sentence was, that's not the way to do that. And her response is, what are you talking about? Notice that was her response. But watch how it goes differently if she holds back that what are you talking about, and instead answers in a different way. So go ahead and read the first sentence, and then respond naturally to what I say next.
Okay. Well, that's not the way to do that.
Wow. It sounds like you're frustrating and you want me to have some awareness about something. Tell me what you want me to have awareness about. Notice. I almost capped you out right there. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to deliver the second sentence? Right? You can't even get to the second sentence. Okay, so I'm going to make it easy.
Wait. You mean you wanted me to step through the other ones as well?
Well, you can't get to them because I just cut you off. Just to notice. But I'm going to make it easier. Watch this one. So, Tom, you would have liked me to have awareness. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, so notice I made it easy, so at least you could get one word out.
Well, at least, and you've got me agreeing with you.
And I've got you agreeing. So that's a big mistake that people are making with Trump and all the other people that are on the media, is you got to get them to say yes. You don't get to get them to answer. So as you would like us to hear this, and you would like the American public to see this. And you would like us, American public, to focus on that and make that bigger than the thing that other people are saying. Yes. So you would like me to hear the Democrats are doing this. Is that what you like me to hear, the Democrats? Yes. Huh. Well, the Democrats said this. So it doesn't. So is it that is what they're saying wrong, or is there something different? Immediately they're on the skids, because you've just taken their ammo and you've prevented them to go from the next sentence.
Well, and you're giving them compassion and
That's right.
and then this is, I remember what you taught me in sales, to use as a sales technique, is to, whatever it is that they've told you because they want to be heard, is that you reflect that back to them and get agreement to say, well, so if I'm hearing you correctly, I want to understand that you think that this is the case, or whatever it is, right? And get them to agree with you. Immediately the chemistry in their brain changes.
Yes.
And now they feel heard, and anything else you say is going to be received in a much more productive manner.
Correct. That's right. So let's go to the second sentence and watch what happens next.
What's wrong with you?
Ooh, Tom, you're feeling irritated and you would like me to have some more knowledge than I do. And you just want to point out that I really made a mistake. Is that correct?
Yes.
So notice I'm staying power with you rather than fighting the conversation, because I would be after nothing's wrong with me, asshole. See what I mean? It's like,
Right.
stop talking to me that way or
Right.
whatever, and instead of just being just being compassionate to what it's saying. Okay, I'm ready for the next one.
I told you a million times.
Oh, Tom, I'm guessing you're really feeling frustrated, and I haven't really heard you and really followed your advice in the past. And you want me to do that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're ending on the yes. And
Uh,
I'm still in a compassionate space for the sentences that you're saying. It does take a little bit of training in media for media people to do this, and it takes a little bit of training. It doesn't damper, it doesn't slow down ratings as much, um, unless if you do it too soon, it might, because what happens is that the person is, but it starts to create a healthier language that goes on, and the person can still use other techniques to keep the listener engaged, but without losing the integrity and respect and getting all flustered and things like that. That some the different. You won't believe what he said next. After the break. It's like
yeah.
there's other ways to hook it.
Yeah, there are.
There
I
are other ways
agree.
to hook it. All right, so I'm ready for the last one.
It's
Number 4.
your own fault.
So you're feeling irritated. You'd like me to take ownership of this mistake, and you would like me to do better next time. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what's happening now is I'm being in a compassionate place. I'm connecting to what the other person's saying. I'm not allowing judgment, criticism, blaming, and shaming to get to me. I recognize the pain, the way the language is being spoken, formulated, and expressed, and then I'm being compassionate to that. So far, so good?
Yes.
All right.
Sounds good.
So now we could take a look at, well, what about what the woman said? She said 4 sentences too. She said, "What are you talking about? Nothing. That's not true. Whatever." Okay. So she can stop herself from saying that by talking to herself on the inside. Or he can realize, uh-oh, I need to start being compassionate to her and stop his narrative from escalating and take the high road. So take the high road is not trying to get power over. Taking the high road is to have power with the other person. This
That
is why,
that
yeah, go ahead, Tom.
well that needs to be amplified. That what you just said,
Right.
power with.
Yeah,
That,
you want power with. Yeah, you don't want
yeah, I
power
mean
over.
that's profound. And I just wanted to emphasize that because
Yeah.
to me, again, that's what I've seen at least most of the time.
Okay,
It-
so
it-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Most
So
of the time I see, people in past election cycles, the
yeah,
winning, candidate who gets the nomination tends to speak more in the language of we and us than me, I, type of language. So power with,
power
I
with
think, is very
language.
powerful.
So there was a slogan. So this is the reason why Hillary's not the president. This is the number one reason. You
Yeah.
ready?
Ready.
Here's the slogan. They go low, we go high. Nope. Loser. That language is a losing narrative. The reason why is because without her knowing it, it's creating an us versus them mindset. Instead of a power lift, start leading now in a collaborative way. Don't start leading as all I need is 50 more votes than the other person and I'm in. See? Different. So we really actually are looking to have a narrative that is power with the person, not power over. And then it goes much better. So instead of saying, when they go low, we go high, the slogan might have been, there's frustration, aggravation, and anger because they're not being heard the way they would like. And the way I would like to run the country is. Now all of a sudden it's, you're not deplorable.
Right.
You're angry and aggravated about the state and your experience up to this point, let alone the media saturation that things are terrible, Obama's bad, their policies are bad. They've been hammered to bet on the horse away from the horse that has got them there.
Right.
You know what? You're going to win with this horse better if you stay with it. Things aren't going to be exactly the way you would like it. And yes, both parties have problems, but not as many. Anyway,
Yeah.
So let's go and do that. And let's get compassionate for theirs. And you go and read the first sentence. What are you talking about? And watch what happens.
All right. What are you talking about?
So I'm guessing you're maybe confused and you need some clarity about what I'm talking about. Is that correct?
Yes. So the interesting thing here is, though, that the woman's statements are the responses to
Correct.
the man's statements that were not compassionate at all. So it's kind of hard to cycle through them, isn't it?
It is a little hard to cycle through it. But see, she could have in her mind, watch this. Instead of saying the sentence, what are you talking about? She could say this sentence out loud. Listen, I'm really feeling confused and I just need some clarity right now. Instead of saying the defensive sentence, what are you talking about? Listen, I'm confused. I need some clarity about what you're talking about. It prevents him from bringing such a volatile second sentence. Even the second sentence, if he's going into the bully place and says, "What's wrong with you?" Her defensive and contempt mind wants to say, "Nothing's wrong with me, you jerk."
Right.
Instead, she would say, "You really needed me to have some more awareness that I didn't have about something. And you wanted me to follow what you taught me last time." Instead of saying the word nothing,
Right.
she has a power with sentence. Hillary would have never got caught with the word deplorable coming out of.
Oh my goodness.
She would have never got caught if that person said the sentence and put the word deplorable in there and it's caught on media and she turns to him and says, "What mutual respect looks like to me is."
Right. Now
It's
it would have been entirely different.
It's over. It's like that. It's not a lot of votes we're talking about for the swing to get her to be elected, not tons of votes in various different states. But it is still seeing the pain inside the other person in a compassionate way. This is not about getting votes. This is about establishing a language that's value and need based that's going to work better.
which, and in general, she didn't come off as very empathetic, as a whole anyway. And if she had, I agree with you that the outcome of the election would have been significantly different. And
she still doesn't.
I know.
She still doesn't. She still has, look at the list. She still has the list.
I know.
Offensive, contempt, judgment, withdraw. I mean, oh my gosh. She doesn't even know she is a consistent support every time she does an interview or writes things the way it's on this side. And she doesn't even know that. I mean, it's one thing to be clueless, and it's another thing to be smart and unaware. That's two different things. She's more smart and aware.
Incredibly smart, yeah.
She knows stuff.
Well, no question. It has so much experience that, my goodness, the country would have benefited a ton from.
Because this whole thing is about emotional sobriety, right? So with very, very little emotional sobriety.
Well, and that is what
very low.
That is the illuminated point here today. Is it's going to take someone with emotional sobriety to be able to not get caught in this kind of spiraling downward discourse with Trump or the Trump campaign, both really.
Yeah.
And very few candidates out there have this kind of emotional sobriety, but they can get it. And I would just like to put my vote that whoever, ends up really wanting to win this election, they should call you, Bill, and get some coaching, because you can turn anybody around. They have to study and learn, but my gosh, you know how to do it. So.
Well, I appreciate that. One elected official in Michigan took one of my workshop. Oh my gosh, in 2001 or 2002, took my workshop, ran for an office and against an incumbent, and won with 73% of the vote.
Oh my goodness!
It just flopped over for him.
Wow.
But he was a high
really applied the principle.
He just took it and ran. He took it, applied the principle. And what wound up happening is that, he had some really, he was a really good integrity guy. And it was never, ever about manipulation. It's always about power with and power for, the greater good, and standing for the American values, the way it really needs to be talked about, which is, how do you, have compassion for people that don't have things and have junky language in their head and have junky trauma patterns in the past, and so it's very, very, very important that this is not a tool or technique that you can actually use on someone. You've actually got to connect to authenticity and compassion and empathy in order for anything to work. So, and then you got to put the right words in place, because then it works. But otherwise,
you need to have the discipline. You've got to be able to be in these moments and not take the bait, a la Tom calling Trump sophomoric, and then and respond with that empathy and compassion. And wow, the world opens up. That's so exciting, Bill. I think I've had so much fun today talking with you about this. I hope our listeners have really gotten something good out of it. I'll be shocked if they don't, but I want to remind everyone to go to the blog post for this episode and to see the slide. And if you want to watch the video where you see it animated, then
we'll have that too.
That'll be that there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tom, it's been a delight. What a fun banter, and thanks for role playing with me, and what a way to take this out for a spin, right?
Oh, so much fun. Thank you, Bill.
All right, Tom, take care. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth Podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.